So you guys can make it short and quick. So group one, go ahead.
Alrighty, so for group one, we chose the theme to be creative tool to allow us to communicate complex ideas. The epics were formatting / styling and manage documents. From a story standpoint, we did 5 stories to roll up to epic 1 and then 5 stories to roll up to epic 2. So for our stories, we have provide font options and then font sizes and then the stylings to bold, italic, and underline. The alignment and bullets for formatting. For Epic 2, the stories we chose were to create a document, to save a document, print a document, share via email, and then save as the stories. We kind of started to break it out into tasks, but normally the way that in Ecom we've kind of gone about with this story splitting is that normally once we have our stories written, we have a preview meeting with developers and QA, and from there, if tasks shake out, then we'll create them and add them, or as a developer starts to work on a story, they will add tasks to a specific story because there are things that I might not understand or know in regard to like the guts of what they're developing. So we started to kind of try to do some tasky stuff, but then stopped just because we weren't really sure exactly the best way to go about that. So the 2 tasks that we came up with, for example, were for the provide font options, we did select a drop-down selector to select your font option, and then an apply function so that you can apply the font option that you had selected. But then Kevin started getting like really into details in regard to like the development side of it, and I was like, see, this is where I just like stop, and I'm like, you can just add this task and we'll go from there. So that's kind of where we ended up with all of ours.
Okay.
Any questions? Comments?
Group 2?
Group two.
Alright. So for our theme, we said we're gonna build a word processing tool, not to overcomplicate it. Epic 1 is around styling, Epic 2 is around utilities. From our styling epic, we came up with 6 different stories. So we're rule breakers.
Oh, I said it, just say at least.
Okay, well
Didn't have to
then
be
we're
exactly.
within the threshold of reasonability. So we,
Make us look bad, I see. Now I know.
so we took font type as our first story, and within that, we didn't have any tasks. Ignore this piece. We got off track, and then we got back on track. Our second story was around styling, in which we looked at bold versus strike through, so kind of functionality within the styling. 3 was size, so being able to pick a size versus plus or minus a size, so those are tasks within that size story. Color, we decided just it's a story unto itself, there is no need for tasks within that story. 5 is text formatting, which includes alignment and bullet numbers. And then 6 is its own story around spell check, which we obviously understand that's probably a complex story unto itself. Epic number 2 falls under the theme or under the word utilities. Story 1 would be save, which we would be able to save a current document versus saving to a different document. So there are 2 tasks under the save. Print, being able to print a landscape or portrait, although we had some conversation within our team that probably is just baked in functionality from a technical development point of view, but we split it into 2 separate tasks anyways. 3 is open docs, making sure that we can do a new document, create a new document, or we can open up multiple documents. Those are tasks within there. We have another story called send. We don't have any tasks for that. And then another one we call toolbar, which is basically being able to group functionality together within. And then we just made sure that as we went through our requirements document that we took care of all of our highs, and if we probably had the ability to go back, we'd rank our stories based on the high priorities that were given in the document.
Which story splitting technique did you use the most?
What's that?
Which story splitting technique do you think you used the most?
I think we use more of a operational, like how the people intend to use it.
Deal. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Group 3.
Well, our team
I think what most of the team has come up with, we just came up with the same theme, that is build a word processing tool. So again, we just split it up into two epics, that is styling and utilities, similar to most of us what we did. The only thing that we started off is, we started with the second epic first, assuming that more than styling, the important would be first to save or open or do those tasks on these, if whatever you type or print. So that is why we started off with the second level. So when we started off with the second level, these are the priorities that we thought about, like, ability to open a new doc, save a doc, and then once you save, or if you have an existing doc that you have already, you should be able to save it as a different one. So that is the third thing we thought it is important based on the priority that was given over there. And then we also thought about, sending those attachment as email. So it had 3 functions or tasks, but when we thought about as a team, we thought Gmail or Hotmail or Outlook, it should be based on priority. So what would be more important? So we thought we should do it as a separate stories, so that if you have one functionality of sending it through email, that is a basic minimum viable product. So later on we can build new versions to send it across. So we split those tasks into multiple stories. That is what the team thought about, and we split it as well. And then following that would be the printability. That would be basically just printing first, and then we can build up version 1 or 2 to say whether it should be landscape or portrait. The basic functionality is print. So that is what we thought about. And then we moved over to styling format. So styling format, it was pretty straightforward, like ability to have one default as a basic one, and then if you have multiple versions, we can build later on. So we are just going into the market first with the basic default functionality. And then increase the font size is the second one we thought, and then ability to have a no style fonts, and font size and font color, everything follows based on the priority that was there in the list. So our team took testing
Yeah, the
and
acceptance criteria, we took that as-
approach. So yeah.
Okay.
Great. Awesome. Good job.
All right.
Group 4.
Yeah, so same theme and epic as like most of the other teams. So new word processing tool was the theme, epics were styling utilities. So we wrote this out, we looked at the document and took the high priority items first and built out stories for those, but thinking that those need to be included in the first sprint that we do. So we did font types, font style, font sizes, color, font size as a keyboard shortcut, text alignment. And then on the utility side, we did save current doc, save as new doc, create a new doc, and then attach and send via email. Then underneath each of those, we had tasks that we tried to go to the defaults first. So our tasks we want to deliver, for example, would be font size 10 because that was a default font size, or the color black because that was the default color. I think this worked out pretty well. We then went back and actually ranked these in order of priority. So thinking that looks like we have 12 stories up here, what would be like the first 7 or 8 that we'd want to do in the first sprint to get the most out of what we possibly can out of the first sprint review. So we obviously thought that creating a new doc would be important, doing font sizes, doing color, doing text alignment, showing a font type, and actually being able to save and then ultimately send it would be important. So we feel like if we did those 7 stories in our first sprint, we'd actually have a robust sprint review that would give us direction on what to do next. In terms of the story splitting type that we used, probably operational for the most part, maybe a little bit in terms of input options once we get down to how we want to send it in terms of the attach and send function, but predominantly operational like Team 2 did.
Great.
All right.
And phone group?
So, what we have done, the team gave us word processing, then the epic with the communication was hard to hear each other because it was so loud. And
Sorry,
for,
it's my bad.
No, that's fine. We said identifying a tool and implementing a tool was our epic. And for stories, we just went quick on it, update, save, delete, print, formatting, and then in formatting we have tasks, size, font, color. We had a story called sharing. We have a sharing, how we're going to share it, email, network, and then in and in saving, the tasks were where to save, how long to save. And in printing, we have said how many printers we have and access to printing. So that was just kind of a high level we could gather while talking to each other. The challenges is how to define tasks and go to a level where we can do the tasks easily and be done in a day. Anastasia, do you want to add anything to it? I think you're on mute.
Nope, nothing right now. Sorry, it's a little loud where I am.
No problem. Great.
Okay.
So I heard that group 2 had problems with, well, not problems, but styling 1.9 was a little complex about figuring out whether or not something was misspelt or if there was grammar. Was it? I think it's styling 1.9, where you have the green squiggle if there's a improperly grammatical phrase entered.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're going to run across that where you might not have the technical expertise to kind of break something out like that, because how do we figure out that something's grammatically incorrect? So what you can do is you can break out a spike and fill out all the information in there, give that to one of your technical experts, and they can kind of say, this is the approach that I would take. And from there, you can split it up into different stories. But yeah. Any overall?
So you're basically saying identifying the source of how to identify that something is misspelled or it's grammatically incorrect? Because I think we just assumed that we knew that, but you're saying
Yeah.
that you won't always know that.
Correct.
So
There's
identifying where your source is going to be to make that comparison to ultimately give the design input or whatever requirement input that we need to deliver on that story.
Yep.
You're saying, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
It's on the little web where like the last result is break out a spike. So cool. Any other overall questions, comments, concerns?
Do you want to get together tomorrow to make it 4 days in a row?
Sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, we can talk about Kia Souls. Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. There'll be a survey that'll come out afterwards so that you guys can provide feedback and input. Hopefully, this is very helpful for you. Yeah.
Woo, Ellen! Yay!
Thank you.
Thank you.
These